days off and take vacation time.
The areas that you're going to be able to articulate where value is coming from an identity and access management investment. Security management, labor savings. If you're managing security, your day gets a lot easier. When you automate with identity and or access management, single sign-on, federation, tasks are concentrated into fewer tools. You save time. All your identities are typically consolidated. You end up cleaning up a lot of things that might exist today that are conflicting. And that's a large one from an IT operations standpoint where you see a lot of value. Also, application security development savings. If you're implementing identity access management, you can very often remove from the development effort is coding, the hard coding of security. We can shrink by as much as 25% the lines of code in a particular application because the access and authentication logic is removed from the code. So a lot of ancillary benefits can go with that. Password reset savings. It's very easy to see when people are able to self-service their own password reset requests that your help desk is no longer doing that. You, maybe as a system owner, you're no longer doing that task. User productivity increases, you're getting people on the job much faster than they might have been, before you implement an identity and access management solution. Security risk avoidance. You're cutting down on risk. You generally, at the end of these programs, at the end of these initiatives, you've got fewer people or fewer entities that you have to manage. So fewer people are given privileges to access a resource that you're responsible for. Fewer entities, this could be malware. By throttling down and being more selective, using a finer mesh screen to control who's accessing what, you're saving yourself grief. It's a lot less risk. Integration savings in your organization. When the security is managed outside of the application itself, the application and the data is cleaner. It's just easier to deal with. It's easier to keep things integrated because you don't have to go back then and say, well, who has access to this piece that I'm now integrating in? And what about non-repudiation and things like that? So you're able to reduce the effort once you understand that what you're getting is trustworthy, should be much more reliable. It also supports a service-oriented architecture much more explicitly. Very often, if you read the product literature or solutions white papers and so forth, they often talk about SOA and identity and access management as being mutually beneficial. Audit savings. This is one of the benefits that you'll see from identity and access management automation is that the audit reports are push button. It's all can be built in. So particularly if you're being audited against a regulatory requirement. So if you've got a FINREG or you've got a HIPAA or PCI, you can marry up your data with that particular requirement and just automate that audit compliance report. Typically, it also documents exceptions. So if you have people who are accessing things, but an auditor may not be sure why that person has that access, the workflows that I mentioned earlier typically afford somebody to accommodate an exception and document it right there and then. So the user gets what they need and the exception is documented. Decentralized labor productivity, well, we have a Unix system owner, a DBA, a network admin. They're all doing things related to security, one way or another. They're configuring their firewall, they're dealing with accounts and account management. By centralizing this, it's kind of a subset of point number one, the security admin team labor savings. Same logic, and then the last point is increased revenue. We talked about getting applications out to market faster. Obviously you're doing that for some reason, but maybe some business advantage. In the case of federation, it's a lot easier to make the case for increasing revenue because you're trying to add a service, you're trying to streamline your user's experience and getting to some other value-added offering that you want to have. So if you've got, sign up for our credit card, well, they can go right to that credit card vendor's site, maintain your logo, they plug right in. They don't have to sign in necessarily every time, so maybe you can add a management component that brings people back to your site. So it's a little bit of a help on the management of marketing and customer retention, customer satisfaction. Any questions or arguments?